My name is Stephen Anderson. I'm one of the co-founders of Edchat Interactive, along with Tom Whitby and Mitch, whose name just escaped me. He's got Weisberg, Mitch Weisberg. I wanted to say Hedberg, but that's a comedian. So anyway, I'm glad everybody decided to join us this afternoon for a wonderful conversation with a couple of fantastic folks. Just a few little tips and reminders because I know that the platform may be new to you, so I want to give you kind of a heads up on how things work. So Edchat Interactive, our goal and our mission is to do things differently when it comes to learning and when it comes to virtual learning, especially through webinars. And Shindig is the perfect platform for that because Shindig isn't your typical webinar platform. As you can see, from all of the way that the room looks, everybody has a webcam and everybody has the ability to be on audio. And you can see right now I'm what's called on the stage. And in a few moments, you'll see our presenters on the stage along with some other information. But you can do some pretty cool things here. Like if you click the image of another person, you can form a group. And so Tom Whitby, who's one of our co-founders, is out there. And if you were to click on his picture, you would be put into a group with Tom, and you and Tom would be able to have a conversation. And anybody else can join that conversation too, but only you two would be the folks who would be hearing each other. So that allows you to actually have a more engaging experience because one of the things we do with Edchat Interactive is our presenters present, but then they have you talk, kind of like if you were in a real life situation and you were divided amongst tables, your table would be asked to have a conversation. It's the same thing here. You will be able to click on the images of someone nearby, group up, and have a conversation. You can have groups up to 4 people. You can really have up to 5 people, but we like to keep it at 4. That way we can kind of bounce around the sessions and bounce around those groups and see what people are doing. But you also have a few other commands. If you hover over your own image, you have obviously the option to check your microphone, check your camera. You can also open a text chat with your group members. And you can also raise your hand and ask questions. So you have a couple buttons there where you can raise your hand and we'll be asking for some participants later on, or you can submit questions and then I can see those in the back end. So we're going to take just about 90 seconds. Why don't you go ahead and I'm going to come down off the stage here in just a second. And when we come back, Tom Whitby, one of our founders, is going to introduce our presenters for today. So just take about 90 seconds, and then when Tom gets up on the stage, we'll be ready to go.
Way we really wanted to go. So, I'm back on stage. I'd like to welcome you all for joining us on this Edchat Interactive. We've got 2 very special guests today. Work together, they're friends. The first gentleman we're going to introduce you to would be Dr. Russell Quaglia. I saw Russ at the ASCD conference. He was last year's ASCD conference. He was keynoting, and when he got up to do his keynote, he talked a little bit about Twitter and how he had less than 200 followers. So I immediately started tweeting out for people to follow him. And he had, by the end of the keynote, up to 1,000 followers on Twitter, all educators, which was great. He illuminating and entertaining keynote is the best way I could describe it. And he works with Mike Corso, who will be speaking with you as well. And today we're going to be talking about the commonality between student voice, aspiration, and Santa Claus. And that's about all the introduction I'm going to give. Enjoy yourselves. We will be breaking you down into groups so you can connect with other people, exchange some ideas, and we'll bring you all back together again, and we're going to put some of you up on the stage. Thank you.
We are. Okay. So thanks, Tom. Yeah, thank you for the great introduction. And also, I just want to know from all these faces we're seeing up on our video, without question, you seem to be the most casual and relaxed. So, one of my goals in life is actually to be Tom Whitby. That would be my importance of the voice. So what we want to do, Mickey Corso is here with me, the co-author of the book Student Voice that some of you might have or heard of. And we're going to go through this relatively quickly in the sense of three major areas to talk about. One is obviously student voice, how that connects to student aspirations, and obviously Santa Claus, since it's that time of year. And Mickey will do the brunt of the Santa Claus things. But you will see we have a beautiful stage here we set up, spent probably days putting this together actually, or 4 minutes. And yeah, we have snow and the whole thing. So I'm going to jump in and talk about the student voice piece. The way we want to do this and what intrigued us about this kind of platform is it's not just hearing a couple guys yapping away, but it's giving you an opportunity to talk about what we're talking about, then come back and feed it back to us and so on and so forth. So this is a new venture for us too, and quite frankly, excited about it because, you know, Tom will tell you what I think. I'm not a big fan of these webinar kinds of things actually, but this seems to be kind of the coolest thing we could do to be interactive, yet still be able to reach a lot of people rather than find everybody, whether it's Atlanta or last year, LA. So let me jump in around student voice piece. So the student voice, interestingly enough, has gone from this notion of, wow, that's a pretty cool idea, to almost creating a movement. And I find it fascinating with the work that we're doing now, because I always get introduced as this visionary, this person that thought about, you know, like, wow, what a creative, we need to start thinking about things. I've been doing this for 30 flipping years. So I'm not that much of a visionary, just persistent, I guess. And what we've done, we've taken a concept of the importance of student voice, and we're going to share with you some data in just a few minutes, to a belief and a value system where student voice is not just a cute idea. It's not just something we should do because, you know, a couple of people around the country are yapping about it, and now it's built into a lot of programs and a lot of people talk about it. But really, what does student voice mean? How do you use it, and does it make a difference? And quite frankly, it's the third point that's going to drive home the agenda, the big picture. Does it really matter? And fortunately, we're going to show you that it does through some data that we've been collecting. Before I hand this over to Mickey to share some of the data, a couple key points around student voice I think is important. The very first point is that we believe that students have something to teach us. You can't go into thinking that student voice is important if you don't think it matters. So without question, one of our guiding drivers for our own work is saying students do have something to teach us. I might think I know what it's like to be a student, but I'm not a student anymore. I might work in schools a lot, but I still am not the student that's living and breathing it every day. There's not a time that I interview kids or talk to kids or even see kids in schools, something doesn't surprise me because my eyes are open to it. So this notion of student voice is important, but it just doesn't mean anything if no one's listening. So the very first thing is students have something to teach us, but we need to be willing to listen. And the other piece I would say around student voice in the general context, it's not just student voice from the student council kids, it's not just student voice from the kids that are in the principal's office because they're in trouble, but it's a collective. It's not just high school kids. I get most of my materials, some of you have read the book, will see a lot of that material is from elementary, primary kids because they have this innocence about them. And the other piece I want to share on student voice is this, and this bothers me. It bothers me because we actually have a survey. We have a student voice survey that we do through Corwin. And it's a good survey, but it's not the end all be all. So when people say, oh yeah, we really promote student voice in our schools, giving a survey does not take you off the hook. It's not a checkbox. And I've worked with countries that say, oh, we need to concentrate on student voice. Oh, this survey looks great. You know, it's 8-10 minutes long. We'll get some good data back. Boop, check. It's not about that at all. It's certainly a piece of it. But when Mick and I go into schools, when I see and talk to people, when I talk to voice, I tell people, look at student voice is something you can see. It's not just something you can hear. I don't need to have a kid fill out a survey if I see someone sitting by themselves in the cafeteria. I don't need them to fill out a survey. I don't feel like I belong. I pretty much can figure that out. I don't need kids to tell me that I'm bored in school because they filled out a survey. I can see kids are bored in school by just observing. So when we talk to teachers around student voice, it's this multifaceted component where it's not just a survey. It's not just listening to their voice. Quite frankly, it's seeing their voice. It's seeing what they're doing. So there's lots of dynamics around student voice, around the listening and the piece. But I think what's important is, what are some of the students telling us?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, so we're going to look at a little bit of data here. I mean, just to pick up where Russ left off there, that creating the openness on the part of the adults to listen to student voice, to not just give surveys and put them in a drawer, or not just do focus groups and then ignore the results. Creating that, Russ talks all about the time about a partnership, a genuine partnership with the students in order to improve their educational environment together, so that the the era of adults, well-meaning adults making decisions for kids, is probably past us at this point, and we partner with the students. And that's what for us, that's what Student Voice is all about, creating that partnership. And it does in a large-scale way. If you're trying to get every kid involved, trying to listen to every kid, you do need the tools of research. You need surveys and focus groups and things like that. As well as observation protocols. So what you're seeing here is just a few data points from our most recent Student Voice survey. There's a national report. You'll see our website at the end. You can look at the national report from our website. But there's two particular statements on the survey that go directly at Student Voice. So obviously the whole survey being taken by students, in a sense, students' voices. But about 47% of students in this country believe that students have a voice in decision making at school. So about half the kids say, yes, we feel like we have a voice. The other half say, not so much. And similarly, 52% of students say teachers are willing to learn from students. So half of the students perceive a willingness on the part of the adult partners there, their teachers, their administrators, other adults, to listen. And maybe that's why they feel like they have a voice. And the others, for whatever reasons we can't ourselves explain, when we talk to kids in focus groups, they're pretty articulate about it. Think the other half don't think the adults are willing to listen.
well, what's interesting about that data too, those are the same kids. So
Yeah.
if I think a teacher's willing to listen to me, I feel like I have a voice.
Yeah.
And I think the other piece that's important around the voice piece is this. When we're working with students, and I know there are students online here and one actually at the table with us, but when we're talking to students around student voice, it doesn't mean that you get your way. And the same thing we're talking about teacher voice. It doesn't mean, oh, I have a voice. I don't have a voice because they don't even do it.
Yeah.
They ask me something, I give my opinion, they don't do it. That's not voice. Voice is having the ability to share what your beliefs are, to have a conversation about it. And as you talked about, it's a partnership. It's not a relationship, it's a partnership.
Yeah.
And that's
in a
important.
partnership, you don't always get your way. I mean,
Right.
you want to be heard in a partnership. You want to feel like the other person understands you.
Right.
But then it doesn't necessarily follow that, therefore I do what you, my partner, say.
Yeah.
Anyone who's been in a relationship knows that. One of the shorthands I use is I say nurses and surgeons are partners in the operating room. It doesn't mean the nurses do the surgery. And it's the same thing in the learning environment, that we want the teachers and the students to be partners. We certainly want more than half of the kids to feel like they're partners. It doesn't mean they do the surgery.
Right.
So those are two interesting data points. We can certainly do better, across the country. And we're looking, probably can't see it there, very small print, but we're looking at a database of 66,000 kids here in grades 6 through 12 from 234 schools across the country. So this is a pretty good and very accurate sample of what students all over probably feel about their learning environment. The other interesting data point, right after this, we're going to put you in groups, and I'll help, Steve can help facilitate that, is this odds analysis. We do this odds ratio that we have a bunch of them in the report that you can look at. But one of the interesting findings from the odds analysis is that these students who are believe they have a voice in school, these students are 7 times more likely to report being academically motivated than students who say they have no voice. So feeling like you're willing to listen to me, feeling like I have a voice in decision making, realizing I don't get my way every time, but you really pay attention to what I say, I am much more likely, 7 times more likely to be academically motivated in your class and school in general than a student, that other half of kids in the class or in the building who feel like they have no voice. And that's pretty significant. And if there's, I guess you could pep talk academic motivation. Hey, kid, work harder. You need to study more. You need to do that, and you might get some results from that. Or you could simply convince the kid that you're willing to listen, that their voice matters, and those kids are going to be more motivated to do their homework, more motivated to study for your class, and to do well academically. So
I'll tell you, when we look at student voice, and it's always humbling when you can talk about your work in 4 minutes. But here are the things that we're hearing from students around their voice. There's really three pieces that drive this all the time. The very first thing students tell us in the big collective is that they want you to know I matter. I matter as an individual student. So when we're asking them about their voice, when we collect this information, it comes down to three components. The first one is I matter. You need to know I matter as a person. The second thing they want us to know is that we matter collectively. So don't forget for a second I'm an individual and I want to be treated as an individual. But secondly, don't forget that we're a collective. As students, we all matter. And the third component, and this is the hot string one that I share with staff, and I say this at the end, is they tell us you matter. You matter as a teacher, and sometimes we take that for granted. And you know, and I think it speaks volumes to the importance of the connection between students and staff when students tell us the third most important component of education is you, and we need to take advantage of that.
So let's make use of this cool shindig feature here and get some people in groups. The next slide is the question that we want to pose. What are the barriers to student voice in school? You can, and when you get in your group, you can think generically, you know, school in general, the way we do school. But you also might think concretely about your school, some of the barriers you see in your school. So connect up, pick people you want to talk to, and have a conversation about that. We're going to give you a little time to get used to that format and actually form the groups. We'll come back and pull people up on stage to share what their group talked about. And we'll go from there.
And we also have students that are connected on here too, so they'll share from their perspective what their issues are.
Great.
Any questions?
So we'll see everybody back in the bigger room in about, I think, 7 minutes.
Is it 7?
Yeah.
Reminder to everybody so that you can group up and try and talk about, you know, what are those barriers to student voice in school. Though it's very easy to group up, and a lot of people have already started to do that. We can see you just click on somebody else's picture or click on somebody else's group and just jump right in there and have a conversation. And you can have up to 4 people in a group, and we like to keep it at 4. That way we can kind of come in and bounce around. We can see there are already some great groups that are forming. Don't hesitate to kind of jump in, talk to somebody, or just jump into an existing group. And like I said, we'll be back in about 7 minutes or so. I'll bring them back up on the stage, and then we'll get going with the with what folks have to say. So get ready for your chance to come up on stage.
Hi. All right. So I just shared with my colleague Mickey, if we were doing a session on belonging, I'd be very depressed right now. Again, this is a new format for us, so we're trying to figure out how this works. So I want to hear what you have to say about some of the barriers, but what's this experience been like? Because again, it's brand new for us, and trying to figure out what works, what doesn't work, why it doesn't work, and so on. So let's.
So Steve, how do we bring someone up on the stage to share what they talked about in their group? And there was only a couple groups that looked like it, that actually were able to stay together, or people going in and out. So I don't know what's going on there.
And there were a lot of groups. Actually, I could see from the back end there were a couple. There's 2 different rooms where people are divided, and so I can see the other room, and it looked like there were some good groups there. But if somebody just wants to come up on stage, just raise your hand. That would be the easiest way. So if you hover over your image, you've got the option there to raise your hand, and I can bring you back up on the stage. So there's our first person.
Wow, that's cool.
Oh, Tom.
Oh, Tom.
Yeah, I figured I would just start off. It would be nice if everybody had headsets. It kind of cuts the back chatter out, and you don't get that kind of feedback. So that's one of the things that we want to do. I had quite an active group. As a matter of fact, I'd like Nikki to come up on stage. She was in an earlier interactive webinar with us. So we did talk quite a bit about the impediments to student voice. One of my things is I often feel that since we're all products of 20th century education, student voice is very unfamiliar to educators who are still in that 20th century mode. So getting past them is a difficult thing to do. The movement picks up and more people understand what it is. I think it might be picking up, but I don't want to monopolize on this. I really would like somebody else to step up. Maybe Nikki?
Here's Nikki. Hi, Nikki.
Hi, everyone. How are you?
Hey.
Good.
Yeah, Tom, Linda, and Don and I were all in a group together. And Don is from Oklahoma. He's a counselor and works with Title I students. And he was saying poverty is a big issue there in hearing student voice as well, some mic difficulties. And then I was talking about in my school district, I'm in Limestone County in Alabama, and we just went one-to-one with 3rd and 4th grade. And I think this has really been a great boost to our students because there's more opportunity to get their voice out there to an authentic audience. I've used the hashtag comments numeral 4 and then kids. Have you heard of that before? Comments for kids?
No,
So
really.
what you do is on Twitter, use that hashtag when your students write blog posts or anything like that, and you're going to find a whole slew of educators who also are wanting comments on their kids' blog post. And so our 3rd graders just wrote their first blog post, and I put that out there, and they got comments back on their blog post from Sweden and the UK and all over the world. And the kids were so excited to see those comments that somebody had actually read what they wrote beyond their teacher or beyond a grade. And their first question to their teacher after they saw the comments was, when can we write again? And that's exciting.
That is exciting. You know what, Nikki and Tom, you raise an interesting issue because here's the funny, and we should have. When we talk around student voice, and this is a mistake we've made over the years actually, when you talk about student voice, we've always made the assumption that students are ready to have a voice. And I used to be out there holding the flag and say, of course you have a voice. Yes, use your voice. I'm not convinced they're ready to have a voice. I mean, I think they're ready to have a voice. I don't think they know how to use it well yet. I also think the same is for teachers, quite frankly, when we talk about teacher voice. But I should have mentioned it earlier, but it's really interesting. And Nikki, you triggered that in my head around the poverty issue. And I see this in other urban, really dead rural areas as well, where the issue becomes, we want you to have voice. I can't assume you know what that even means as a student. Because students' interpretation of a voice is, oh, fill out the survey, I'll tell you what I think, done. But we take it so much deeper. So that's a great point. And I should have mentioned it earlier, but we can't assume students are prepared to share their voice, particularly the ones that aren't heard. Because it's not safe for them yet. We haven't made it safe for them. So it's a really, really good point. And I think Tom was right. I think kids are better now sharing their voice, whether electronically or however they share their voice now. And we got to capitalize that, because I think the issue with the teachers is, how do we make it safe that student voice isn't an attack on me? Right. Because that's how it's perceived, I think, by some teachers. Not all, certainly, but some is, I don't want to know what they think. Yeah. I don't want their voice.
So what are you afraid of learning?
Yeah, what are you afraid of learning? So anyway, yeah, 2 great points. So thank you. Other barriers out there.
Let me hear from one other person up there before we move on to the next part, the aspirations part.
Anybody?
Okay. Oh, there you go.
Raise your hand and I can bring you up on stage.
Oh, no.
5 folks so far. So why don't you continue on?
Great. All right. So let's talk about the aspirations component. And again, I always think we're joking about it. We're like, oh, this is unbelievable. We're going to talk about our entire life's work in a half hour. So when we started concentrating on student voice and started paying attention about watching them and observing and doing all sorts of kinds of research pieces, what they is what drives them are thing called aspirations. And we look at aspirations typically as someone that's a dreamer. So like when we say, we all want our kids to have aspirations. We want schools to have aspirations. It's in our mission statements. We hear it all the time. But what does it really mean? And when we really got to the definition for what it meant for what we were seeing, it's not just dreaming of being able to set goals, but it's being inspired in the present to reach those goals. So we wanted to become real educators and write a book, so we decided we need a quadrant. And so I don't know any book out there in education that doesn't have some quadrant of some kind. So we decided to do our, the two dimensions there are dreaming and doing. And when you look at low dreamers and low doers, we call it in the hibernation state. These aren't bad kids, they're not evil kids, they're just there. And as I'm sharing what these things look like and feel like and sound like to you, think of your own classroom. Now, granted, we've got a picture of a high school kid in there, but this is at every grade level. We've seen this at kindergarten kids, preschoolers, where they'll show up at school, they don't know what they're doing the next 10 minutes, never mind somewhere down the road. Now, I'm not asking a 5-year-old to tell me their future hopes and dreams around their career. I am asking them about, what kind of person do they want to be? What excites them about learning? But we see so many kids just sitting there, just empty vessels getting stuff poured into their heads. And we call that, again, imagination. Low doing, low dreaming.
Hibernation, that's hibernation.
Yeah, hibernation, sorry. If I'm high dreamer and a low doer, these kids, from our perspective, in this imagination state, where it's kind of not a bad state to be, and these are the kids we typically like to hang around with. They're the ones that tell us all the things we want to hear, like, don't worry, I'm doing my homework, I'll get it done. I'm going to college. Of course, I haven't applied yet, or I haven't even taken the right classes to even apply to college, but state of imagination. And again, these aren't evil people, and they're not bad to us. Matter of fact, I think the kids in the imagination state skate by a whole lot of things because they're saying all the things that they're supposed to say to us. And then if I go to the bottom right-hand corner, low doing and low dreaming, we see a lot of these kids in alternative education programs where they're incredibly hardworking. They're the first ones in the school. They're the last ones to leave. They hate Fridays because they don't want to leave that environment. Work, work, work. All the work's on time. No disrespect. Hey, they're hardworking kids, but they too are the ones that don't know what they're doing next week. Never mind next month, next so on. So the challenge for us, obviously, is to get the ideal quadrant is the upper right-hand quadrant where I'm high dreaming, high doing. I'm not afraid to set goals for myself, and I'm not afraid to work hard to reach those goals. The challenge at that quadrant is this kind of notion of burnout. We see kids a lot that are high dreamers, high doing, they just won't stop, and then they hit a wall. I've had enough. I see this with young athletes all the time, where they play a sport 24/7. It's their whole life is around this one sport. By the time they go into high school, you can really elaborate on that sport. They're done. I don't want it anymore. So it's not the ideal thing to put every kid up in that right-hand quadrant without protecting them. And again, it's not like there are evil quadrants in here, and it's not like this is a Myers-Briggs test where you get yourself in a quadrant and you stay there. This isn't a kid issue. This is an adult issue. As a former principal of a school, I could section off my staff, not my current staff because they're all perfect. But when I look at my faculty, I could easily put them in these different categories, like, holy cow, so-and-so is going to tell me exactly what I want to hear. They're not going to do a damn thing. So-and-so in the back of the room is doing this. They've got their newspaper. They're not paying attention at the point. Obviously, they're in hibernation. I'm not going to bother them. And then I have the people who work so hard to try to get something done, but no one's listening to them because they're on every committee. Yeah, they're on every committee. They're busy work, but nothing's happening. So we share this with you because this aspiration thing is not a student thing. Yes, we talk student aspirations, but the bottom line is this aspiration thing is for everyone. And I will share with you before I flip this over to Mickey to share some data around this information is this. I always, and Tom, this happened actually at ASCD. I must have had a handful of people come up and talking about their significant others. And they would say, well, my husband, he is in the hibernation state. Dr. Q, what do you do? And of course, I just say, just leave him. And that's probably not the best advice out there, but it is what it is. Again, the point with this is not to pigeonhole kids in these different quadrants. It's to have an understanding that when we're teaching class at any level, at any age group, in any subject, we're going to have kids sitting in these quadrants. So the challenge for us is, what do we do for these kids in these quadrants? Because you can't do one thing that's going to deal with all of them all at the same time.
Speaking of kids, and before I put you again to another question, we do have students in this room with us somewhere. They're having trouble with their microphone. So we have someone on our team, you can see Julie there, she's on the phone with them trying to figure out how to get them so we can bring them up on stage at some point. But for now, we're going to shift back into that conversation mode where you can maybe this time pick someone different in your group. And the question here is for each non-aspiration quadrant. So people you know, students you've met, teachers, yourself in hibernation, perspiration, imagination. What motivates them, or what have you seen motivate them, or what motivates you to move into an aspiration category? So you notice that person, that student, that colleague in one of those three categories. Discuss in a group what you have seen in your experience move them into a high dreaming, high doing category and out of one of the categories where dreams and efforts don't come together. So get into groups, and we'll see you this time in about, again, about 5 minutes this time, since you've already practiced the grouping.
Click on a picture of somebody else, and your images will magically be joined together, and you'll be able to talk and hear each other. And like they suggest, you know, pick some different folks, bounce around, talk to some different people. I know you only got 5 minutes, but hear the different perspectives of other folks in the room.
That's good, Lisa. Thank you.
So that's great. We were just chatting with Lisa there, if you can see her. So one of the things I want to say before we move on and move towards the end of our time together is that there is a group of students here. They are, is it Lauren W. there? And they just cannot get their mic working. It's so frustrating. And now I see that their camera's not working. I was just going to ask Steve to pull them up on stage just to at least wave. Because I believe they can hear us, and Julie's been, well, here they are, but I don't know if they have a camera that we could even, so we can't see you and we can't hear you, Lauren, and I think you have a friend there. I don't know what your friend's name is, so I feel really badly about that. If we can get your camera on, maybe at least we can pull you up and see your smiling faces. But we really want to thank you. Obviously, our work, Russ and my work, every adult on here who's participating is participating because your voice matters to us. And I know it's a frustrating experience for you right now with the technology, but keep working on your school face-to-face, as they say, with your teachers, and hang in there. Maybe we'll get your tech working. So one last question to discuss here. I don't think we'll break up into groups for this. We're going to ask people to just have a think a little bit and then raise their hand. And since it was Russ's idea to include Santa Claus, I'll let him ask this question.
Yes, well, so here's the story with the Santa thing. I was trying to think of, obviously, it's the holiday season, and Christmas is right around the corner, and Santa is alive and well in our lives. And every Christmas, even now, quite frankly, many years into this, is always had a Christmas wish list for Santa. And I have mine now, which I will share with you. I thought, you know, when we think about our school, when we think about Santa who's coming to town soon, if you had one wish for Santa for your school, what would it be? And so this, I mean, this isn't a lot of heavy lifting here, but just think, what's the first thing that comes to your mind if Santa's going to drop off some presents? What would the present be for your school?
So raise your hand. Steve will pull you up on stage, and we'll hear your list.
Nikki, what do you want Santa to bring?
I didn't know I raised my hand, but I've been just so thrilled with everything that the One program has done for 3rd and 4th grade students and teachers as well, because they're having to learn how to teach in a completely different environment and let go of that sage on the stage presence. That if I could have whatever I wanted, I would like to be able to expand that one-to-one program from pre-K through our 12th grade students and not have to wait, because we're rolling it out a few grades every year to be able to afford to do it. So Santa, bring me some tech.
Yeah.
Fair enough. That's awesome. Thanks, Nikki.
That's great. Somebody else want to raise their hand and tell Chris? That's hard to say. Wish list for school.
It's really not that much.
It's not that hard. It's just for me.
If you don't raise your hand, Steve will just pick you.
Just drag you up
because that's how school works.
Quintessivity.
Come on, somebody's gonna have something for Santa.
There
we go.
Peter Speed.
Hey guys.
Where are you from, Peter?
Well, I'm from Maine. I taught for 12 years in Massachusetts in Newton Public Schools, and up here in Maine now.
Oh, where
Cold.
are you?
You look like you're from Maine.
I'm in Maine.
I love it.
They do this when you move here. It's great. That and my moose that I got parked out front. One thing that I really would like for Christmas this year is to actually have some peers buy in with me and take some more risks. I would really like that. It sometimes feels a little lonely being the one that always seems to be on the edge with administration or with parents or with my students, taking a risk, not being afraid to throw a lesson out the window and just start over from scratch. And I'd like a few more of my peers to get onto Twitter, to get connected with other educators. I keep feeling like I'm banging my head against the wall sometimes, trying to convince them that Twitter and these online connection spaces is the future. It's the way that we're all learning so much more every day. So I'll sit down now, Professor.
No, that's where were you? Oh, I'm sorry, lost you. I want to know where you are in Maine.
Going back up.
Yeah. Well.
Oh yeah.
Thanks, Peter.
No problem. I'm in a city called Hollowell. It's the town just south of Augusta.
Yep, I know. Well, we're building a place in Belgrade, as a matter of fact.
Well,
so I know
right up. Everything's about 30 minutes away in this state. It's funny how that is.
Yeah, right.
Exactly. How is actually
That's
about
it,
30 minutes
yeah.
away. And you know, the other thing I might add, just as a little side, you obviously keep your heat at the same temperature we do because that's the coat I wear in my living room.
Yeah.
So that's great. Thank you.
Other wishes. Others. Here we go.
No, I just want,
Nikki.
I'm standing up and I'm applauding what Peter said. I agree 100%. If you're an educator and you have not caught on to Twitter and the powerful PD that can happen through connecting on there, you are missing out and you're missing a whole chunk of what education can be for you. So off the stage now. But standing.
That's great.
Hashtag EdChats are the fastest hour of your week if you're looking for something to do. Your significant other is watching their TV program, just sit next to them in EdChat. I mean, it's great.
No, it is good. I'm the
What
first.
you've done, yeah.
I yes, which is shocking to most people. As Tom alluded to in the beginning, I had 6 followers before ASCD, and now in the thousands somewhere. But we'll give you our Twitter things because I would love to stay connected. Is that Julie Smith?
Yes, it is, and I'm cold in my house too.
How are you?
We are great. We are getting that big storm that we're getting in the west. We're having about 85-mile-an-hour winds, and the ocean is ferocious. And here's Ray.
Hey, Ray.
Happy holidays to everybody. Yeah. Well, I think our. Go ahead.
What's on the Christmas wish list?
On the Smith's list. Well, we hope that Santa, would bring to every school and to all of our kids certainly inspired and passionate teachers and teaching, and then really a hope that not only that our teachers feel like they have a voice in their schools, because I think once they feel like they have a strong voice, they're going to be more empowered to help their students have a voice. So Santa, sprinkle your stardust over and make that happen for all of our kids. I think our teachers would feel so much more hopeful versus hopeless in a lot of situations and cases. So can you make that happen, Santa?
Yeah, damn right. Well, I'm working on the belly, so I'll get the hair. So
That's great. So maybe just 1 or 2 more people want to get up here and give us a wish list before we wrap up.
I want to thank Julie. 2 of the finest educators and people on the planet. They actually work directly with us to do some stuff on the field, but just the most genuine, caring, loving. Oh my God, it's great. You see him online, I get excited to see him. So thank you guys for popping in.
So who is that?
Who is this?
We can't see you, but it sounds like we can hear you. Julian.
Hi, Russ. This is Leon Hayes. Can you
Hey,
hear me?
Leon. Yes.
How are you guys?
We're good.
Yeah, Oh, good. I think in our case, you know, our school has a great deal of poverty, and what we'd like to see happen, and I'd like to see Santa bring to us, is helping our students not only have aspirations, but also reach those aspirations and have the desire to do so. So if we can change one thing, we'd like to build that desire in our students to do and be whatever they choose to be.
That's beautiful. Leon, if I had my Santa wish list, you know what it would be? Not to let principals like you ever retire.
Yeah.
Hint, hint.
We were actually in, I don't know if we told you this, we were in Leon's school last week, I think it was, a week before that, and he invited us to come back. And some good people from a local community, their church community, in partnership with New Balance. I want to make sure I get that. New Balance sneaker people provided every student in the school with new sneakers.
Yeah, Chris was telling me.
Really, really cool thing to see those kids jumping up, all elementary schools, jumping and running. And I remember you get those new pair of sneakers. So that was great. Thanks again, Leon, for inviting us back for that. Beautiful. Tom?
Yeah, what I would wish Santa to do is something that can't be done, but I'd like to put every educator into a Wayback Machine and send them back to become students again in their own schools and experience for 1 week what it's like to be in their school learning under the conditions that they teach. And the best part about it is if they could be a student of themselves in their own classroom.
Yeah.
There was a blog or an article that went around a couple weeks ago. I don't know if you saw it, where somebody shadowed, a teacher shadowed a kid at their school, and they wrote about it, and it was an eye-opening experience, to say the least, for them. And yeah, we don't have time machines, but we certainly recommend that as a practice to teachers, to just shadow a kid for a day and see what it's like to walk, a mile in their shoes, as they say.
Yeah.
So what's on your wish list? I'll go first.
Okay.
We're coming to our end time. You want to say something before we wrap?
No, I'll do it both at the same time.
Okay, so on my wish list, and I have, it's a long wish list for schools, but I think it's having every student realize or connect with at least one adult in the building. We use the term heroes in our work, that every student find at least one teacher that they could talk to if they're having some kind of difficulty, social, academic, whatever, and knows that that teacher is there for them, to be their advocate, to be their hero, to not just be their instructor. So I guess from a long list, that would be my top one.
Oh, yeah, so I guess I have two. My top one, just in case listening, I want a really nice bottle of scotch. I think that would help me be a better educator. But but for me, it's, if I had that magic dust that Julie and Ray were talking about, it would be to have every teacher believe in every kid. And so that wish for me, for my Santa list, is that teachers not only believe in Santa, but believe that every kid can be successful. Because what we found is, when we listen to kids, when we pay attention to what they have to say, when we learn from what they have to say, they're going to do better academically. And I get the academic as the end game. I just think the way we can get there could be a little differently. And what we want to do is put up our accounts. I do want to thank Mickey and Julie, who's online here, for making me do those things. But we've gone from 6 to a couple thousand now, so thank you. And I really do actually do them when I'm on planes and airports and so on. So add us to the list, and we'll get right back to you about things. I also want to thank the people to do this. I am not, and people who know me know I'm pretty transparent. I'm not a big fan of these kinds of things, but this has been fun, actually. And I just so love seeing faces on there that we know, from the Smiths to Leon to people from Maine. It's just Nikki and the whole crew. So thank you for believing in it. And again, we're available when you need us, and there's a big team out there to support. So Nick, thank you.
Great.
And thank the others. Merry Christmas.
And Steve, thanks for hosting us.
Wonderful presentation. I know that the conversation was really great, and this is the kind of experience we want to bring to people. So if you want to learn more about Edchat Interactive, you can check out our website, and we also have our archive there that has a couple other Edchat Interactives that you can check out and view. and sign up for. We've got several coming up in a couple more coming up this month and a couple more coming up in January. But you can go over and visit edchatinteractive.org to learn more. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you next time.